6 years? Oh. Hey, sweetheart, welcome into Terror Tuesday, the show in which I do my makeup inspired by a horror movie, while attempting to tell you about it, but I get really distracted, let's be honest with us. Today we're talking about a movie I don't actually like, but I'm a completionist, so we're gonna talk about it. We are talking about Andy Muschieny's It Chapter 2, which is a sequel to what we talked about last week, which follows the Losers Club 27 years after their first encounter with Pennywise, when they have all moved away, forgetting everything that occurred during their time in Derry until a devastating phone call brings them back home. As I said, this movie is directed by Andy Muschieny, and unlike the last movie, we only have one makeup department head. We have Sarah Craig, although Linda Dowds was also there, but on IMDb, she's only credited as doing Jessica Chastain's makeup. I don't know what that's about, but who am I to correct anybody? That being said, I'm going to put the rest of your makeup artist on screen for you here, because as we've discussed, horror is nothing without its makeup and special effects teams. I'm going to be turning myself into a half-assed Pennywise, because I don't respect this movie. I love It Chapter 1. It Chapter 2 is just very lackluster for me, and I'm going to be very honest with you. You're going to be able to tell I'm not a big It Chapter 2 fan. I'm very attached to the 90s one. I have a very emotional attachment to Dennis Christopher's Eddie Kaspbrak, to a point that I really just don't really care for Ransom's version. I really dislike some of the changes that were made to this movie. Some of the added scares really don't do anything for me. We're gonna get into that. I'm gonna grab makeup brushes because I forgot to grab anything to do the lines. And I'm gonna send you to the trigger warnings, and we'll be back in a second. So, this movie actually starts with the opening part where you see the distribution companies having this really weird child laugh over it. You're gonna hear it again. I think it's supposed to be Pennywise victims, but it sucks. And then we go to Bed Floating from movie 1. I believe it's just probably a cut scene from the original because she looks the exact same. Oh yeah, another reason I hate this movie is that weird CGI that the kids have going on. I hate this primer, but it works for this cream makeup better. I don't know. It's not that bad on some of them, but I think the CGI, especially on Olaf and Wolfhard, is very uncanny valley. I don't like looking at it, but seeing them in the costumes without the CGI also bothers me. This doesn't look right. So I don't know. This movie is just kind of cursed for me. I don't like it. I'm sorry. But we see her talking to the boys about what she saw in the deadlights. Stan asks what he looked like. She doesn't really have an answer. Again, she didn't see him, but she can't admit that to him. Then we watch The Blood Oath again, where we circle in on Mike this time, as he begins to narrate our story for us, before we cut 27 years in the future, leaving a carnival, which, this is chapter 2 of the book, by the way. I really wish this whole scene had just been removed from the movie. The 90s version didn't have it. I don't really care to watch queer violence, but I do want to let you know that in the original version of this, it's not a carnival they're leaving, but a gay bar. But we watch a gay couple that is immediately hate crimed, one of them worse than the other because he stood up for himself, and tragically that's the way it goes for a lot of us. Which is very sad, because when we meet him, he's playing this that game with the balloons that you fill up with the water guns, and then whoever can get it to pop gets a prize. We're playing that when we meet him, and he's next to a little girl who's going to come back up again later. She clearly wants the stuffed animal he won, and he hands it to her and thanks her for letting him win as his boyfriend comes back over. And the two of them are talking about leaving Derry, and then we run into a crew. They're calling them, I don't think they call them the F slur immediately. I think they call them fairies, which is also a derogatory term, but considering how much Musheni loves to use the F slur, so does King. If you've read it, so does King. Fairy was actually kind of nice to hear. I was a little excited to hear a different slur for a second. For some reason, this group of adults that's hate crimming them also has a random, like, middle schooler. I don't know why. If you know why, I'd love to know. But they start being little shits. Adrian kind of stands up for the two of them, which is what gets him killed. They end up throwing him over a bridge with a hat on. He starts drowning. Pennywise gets him and bites out his side, which is our first appearance of Pennywise in this movie and our first kill at exactly 7 minutes in. I hate this scene. I hate this scene a lot, and I really wouldn't wish it hadn't been included, but what are you gonna do? We cut to adult Mike, who is living in the library. He goes to, tamper with crime scene evidence. As you do. We find out his granddad has died from a, obituary note. I don't know what they're called. The little, pamphlet things you get at obituaries. I can't think of... What are they called? You know what I mean. If you've been to a funeral before, you know what I'm talking about. But he has one of those hanging beside him of his grandfather. He goes to tamper with crime scene footage, as you do. There is blood saying, "Come home, come home, come home." Something along that nature. So it's time to call the losers. We get a much lamer title card than the original. It's not as interestingly edited. I think it's really just thrown up there. We see Bill at work. He's at Warner Bros., so I like to believe this was literally just them walking around. I know it's probably not because they literally weren't filming in LA. But I can pretend. He's writing the script for a movie of one of his books. They're complaining about the ending because, if you don't know, Bill is a Stephen King self-insert. I don't really care for this. I do prefer when he's in his home office at home. Really. When he's in his own office, like he is in the original one in the book. However, I do kind of like Audra. I wish they had used her more. And I think this director's really funny. However, this scene is really boring to me, and I think it makes Movie Bill really unlikable. Use cornstarch, the hot goth said, but I hate the way it feels. Anyway, we're gonna cut to Eddie, who is also annoying in his scene. I think a lot of the adult losers in this version are. He's on the phone with his wife Myra, who is nagging him. She's played by the same woman who played his mother. Also plays his mother in the flashback scenes here, obviously. I think that's a really interesting touch because it is very canon from his part of 6 Phone Calls. But a lot of the things he does for Myra and with Myra is kind of to stick it to his mom, but he knows she's a lot like his mom. However, this version of them, I feel like you don't get that feeling that, Eddie knows he's only put himself in this to be, a shit to his dead mommy. Because in the book, you get points where he's complaining about things he did for her, and he's like, wait, she never asked for that. I did that. I did that because I had something to prove. And I really miss that. I like that version of him a lot, and I really kind of wish it had been transferred here since the miniseries didn't have Myra in it at all. But alas, he is now a risk analyst instead of a limo driver. I don't like that either. I'm sorry. I warned you that I'm gonna be really mean. He gets his call from Mike. He gets in a crash. It's nothing serious. It's like the front of both of their vehicles. I mean, the vehicles probably got a little totaled, but like in the long haul, they're gonna be fine. We cut to Richie, who is throwing up. We have to remember our trauma by delivering the vomit. His stand-up show that he's supposed to be performing that night tanks because he's so distracted by that call from T-Zone. He's so distracted by his call from Mike that his show, he can't focus on it and it tanks. The show cuts to Hanscom Architecture, I think that's what it's called, where we get a fake out of who's playing Ben. We actually get to see the actor who played young Ben in the original as a sort of fake out Ben before we meet, what is his name? He also has a triple name, I'm pretty sure. But I'll put his name on screen. I can't remember it right now. Who is actually playing Ben? I don't know how I feel about Ben in this one. I really, really like the, slutty alcoholic version of him from the miniseries, but I like this version of him too. I never really cared much for child Ben. I thought he was kind of a just useless character in most versions, but I really like adult Ben. Anyway, we are going to meet my sweet baby boy again. Am I a lesbian? Yes. Am I attracted to Andy Bean? No. Is there something about Andy Bean Stanley that does it for me? I don't know. I don't know why. I think it's his vibe. I want to have Stan and Patty's engagement ring tattooed on me at some point as, a very subtle fandom tattoo. So, I don't know. I like him. He's strange. However, he is working on a puzzle. He's planning a vacation with his wife to Buenos Aires, I believe. And he gets his call. He's very shaken up. He's trying to, find his way out of it. I will warn you this, if you are also in the same boat as me, where you believe that Stan's suicide in the book is not an act of fear, but an act of love, you're not gonna like this. We don't really get to know anything about Patty in this version, in a way that we get to know a lot about her in the book. I only read through 6 phone calls, but she's such a full character, and they love each other so much that, this version's so disappointing. But we get some full ass from Andy Bean. Andy Bean literally showed up, showed his ass, did a puzzle, and died. Good for him. However, we are going to watch his suicide, which is going to be flashing back and forth between him in the bathtub actively, and him as a child having his hand cut by Bill for the blood oath. He slits his wrist at the same time as Bill is cutting his hand, adding Stan to our count at 18 minutes, 48 seconds in. I like to believe the way his suicide was changed is why it's rumored, because I don't know for sure it was ever confirmed that was actually why it was Letterboxd, but this is why he gave this movie a low rating. Look at what they did to his boy. They ruined his boy. I'm covered in cornstarch. But we are gonna leave Stan, who has taken his selfless act of love and had it turned against him as an act of fear. We're leaving him and we're going to the part of 6 phone calls that made me DNF the book, because it's time to meet Bev again. Now, Bev is hiding on the phone. When I say this scene really cleans up how it went in the book, it really cleans it up. Like, this is, you think this is bad, you could not handle any other version of this. I'm just giving up. It's just gonna be a little splotchy. Pennywise's face is literally breaking off half the movie. It doesn't matter. Bev is hiding on the phone with Mike. She goes back in the room. She's packing her awful shitty husband. I hate this man. I can't even try to pretend I don't hate this man. I'm sorry. He's awful and he doesn't deserve rights. But her awful shitty husband kind of plays like he gets it for a minute before accusing her of cheating on him with Mike, which is like laughable because it's one of the few people she doesn't act like she's gonna cheat on him with. The rest of the losers, she's all over them. She's not really on Mike like that though. He goes to hit her. She hits him over the head in a very similar way to the way she hit her dad in the first movie, and then runs out of the place in her pajamas. She is, oh, I'm sorry, I love Bev. I love the little cunty way she leaves her ring on the step of the stairs of their brownstone. Is that what that is? Their place. Anyway, we're going to transition back to the sewer to see how Henry Bowers lived past Mike throwing him down there because, you know, sometimes Mikey boy gets to commit a little attempted murder as a treat. He goes back home just to be arrested by his dad's co-workers for his father's death. The acting in this is really good. They're really aggressive with him. Nicholas did such a beautiful job. I really love him as Henry Bowers. I can't imagine this movie being made with anybody else in that role. Like, I really do think it was his role, and I think it's funnier because he seems like he cares about those kids so much in any of the behind the scenes stuff, and then he's like, and now I'm gonna beat them. Big fan. I love his acting. I think he's great. We're gonna use another balloon transition. We get a lot of really good transitions in this movie, like to the point they almost remind me of like Saw transitions. I'm a big fan of all of the different kind of silly transitions they do throughout this movie. But we're gonna go into the mental hospital that he's being kept in. His excitement over seeing that balloon again distracts him from his very important bead time. Because he is having bead time when we see him, and good for him. But he gets so distracted that he ends up getting the rest of the room kind of worked up. And they send him back to his own room, where we see a balloon and a zombie Patrick Hockstetter under his bed. Which makes this, I believe, the third and final member of the Bowers gang to take that role. From what I've heard, it is Vic in the book. It's Belch in the miniseries, because Vic does not deserve right. Not him. However, Pat gives him his knife back. He's remembering both of them. But it's time to leave that because it is time to go to the Jade of the Orient. Which is another one of those scenes that just like, even if you don't mean for it to, it becomes one of your favorites by accident. Because it just truly is so good. Um, Bill and Mike are the first to meet. They're so gay as adults every single time. Every single time. There's always something so fruity about the way they care about each other. Because they were all in love with Bill at one point. I do believe that. If you are an OT7 shipper, I really recommend watching the 90s one. It was also an OT7 shipper. I can't explain that. You just have to get it. But we watch Mike and Bill as they're remembering each other and sort of having their little come together moment. Eddie walks in, rattling off his allergies, and then we go to the parking lot where Bev is hyping herself up. And while I love the scene in the 90s one where she's the last one to come in, she has her little what a handsome group of old men moment, I love the way Ben brings back up the way they met and the is there a password, like she barely recognizes him at first, and like I think he thinks she just doesn't know who he is, but they literally have to spell it out to other people who he is because he's changed so much compared to everybody else. Richie ruins their little moment, but it's funny, so it's okay. And then we make it inside. Richie mouths to the other boys who Ben is because they don't have a clue. And then we kind of watch them have their cutesy little, like, playing around the table thing. Someone finally brings up that Stan isn't there, and while I don't care for the movie version of Eddie, I really don't care for his adult actor. That's something I'll be very upfront and honest with you for. I think he does a really good job at recreating the way Jack Dylan Grazer played the character, and I do have to give him those flowers. That being said, they go back to playing around. There's sort of this emotional whimsy about it that wants to remind you of the scenes of them in the quarry almost. You can just feel how much they care about each other. This is where Let's Take Our Shirt Off and Kiss happens. I'm gonna mention that for the Readies. I'm not one of you. I don't really care for movie Ready. However, I think if I didn't mention it, it would be, like, this would be somehow the video people come across. They're like, this person hates everything. And they didn't even bring up the best part, because y'all love to talk about that scene. Bill starts stuttering again as the fortune cookies come out. Second best stutter from one of the actors. Jaden's always going to be my number one. However, I do think that McAvoy did a great job with Bill. I think the 2019-2017 versions did do the stutter better, and I will always give them that. We get the fortune cookie scene where they spell out guess Stanley couldn't cut it because Pennywise is sick. He could cut it. That's why he's not there. Oh. The scene is so good. I love the weird slimy ooze coming out of the fortune cookies that sort of emulates the ooze that Eddie was spitting out in his Kneebolt version back in movie 1. The way that the eye comes out referencing Richie being the seer. The baby bird reference to Mike's dad. The scene of him smashing the table with the chair. It's all so good. We get a kid who's gonna come up a lot. The thing about children in this movie is they're not as big a focus as the first one, for obvious reasons. However, once we meet one, they're gonna show up again every single time. Kid accidentally scares Richie because Richie forgot his own he forgot his own stand-up show because he doesn't write his own work, which Eddie says he called it. I like to believe this means all the losers are like watching each other's, like the famous ones at least, kind of know about each other. even if it's just through like work reasons and they never put together they knew them. I think it's really sweet to imagine it like that. There's that. That's better. That thing needs to be sharpened so bad. We're gonna again meet the little girl that Adrian gave a stuffed animal to. Her name's Victoria. She follows a firefly that turns out to be Pennywise under the bleachers of what I believe is a baseball game. It's summer, and so I know it's not football. I think it's baseball. I don't remember. But she follows Pennywise down there. He is taking advantage of her having this like birthmark she gets bullied for. Why does this guy only go after the loser's kids? Like, go after someone cool for once, you sad little pathetic he convinces her to come closer because he can get rid of her birthmark. If she does, she listens, and he bites her, adding her to our count 42 minutes, 20 seconds in. Yeah, we're 30 minutes into this video, only 40 minutes into the movie, because just so much is going to happen. You know this is a 3-hour-long movie? But we go back to Henry Bowers breaking out of the mental hospital he is in with Hochstetter riding in the old beat-up Trans Am that he and his friends used to drive around in as kids. I get to lean back now. We're just gonna chat. Losers go back to the inn. I love the inn. You have the inn from It, and you have the grill from Saw, and both of them have very interesting transitions, and I think that's beautiful. I'm making jokes, but I love the transitions in this movie. I think they're very fun and stylized, and I wish the original, I hate saying the original. The first half had more transitions like this. But Bev walks up to the bar and starts making herself a drink. Like, she, owns the place. I forgot to mention, the parking lot, they call Stan's wife and, find out he died, and Bev knows how he died before Patricia says it. That wasn't really that important then, because I feel like but it is coming back up here. It meant she's watched all of them die. To Ben, who tells Richie. Richie's freaking out, rightfully so. And then Eddie comes down, just not at all part of the conversation. He doesn't have a clue what's happening. Anyway, shout out to my loser librarian, because we're going to scene cut over to Mike taking Bill to the attic library where he lives, where he drugs Bill to tell him about the ritual of Chud. Says Mike knows how to kill the shit out of Pennywise. That's his exact wording. If the losers can just help him. Stephen King loves to steal from and bastardize indigenous communities. This is one of those times. So is Pet Sematary. I'm not going to not bring up that he bastardizes them as much as Stephanie Myers does. They both have a self-insert, too. Isn't that funny? He starts reacting to the drugs, but he can see only what Mike wants him to see. I think the way this is done is supposed to sort of be like the fire ritual from the book that I've heard way too much about, how we found out Richie's the seer, but not, because the ritual of Chet is a mind battle. I don't remember anyone talking about it having all these weird tokens and shit in the book. Sorry. There's cornstarch on my eyelash, and that feels awful. Okay. We get all living things must abide by the law in which the shape they inhabit, which will come back later. It's part of the weird, hazy, moving around thing here. We get I don't feel really good. That's very well done by James McAvoy. And then the zoom on Mike, the zooming in this scene, the zooms in both of these movies. This is this movie's bitch. What's happening? They also mention Mike and the bird. It's not the same context of how he sees Pennywise originally, but I love every time they bring up Mike and the bird. Bill and Mike are so gay and in love. I do believe that. To the deepest part of my soul, I do believe they are gay and in love. Mike tells Bill they'll listen to him. He's the only, and that this can only work with all of them. We go back to Bev talking about how she's watched them all die, says she's got nightmares of people in pain and dying. She's had them all week and just didn't realize they were the Losers Club till she saw them in person. Mike reminds them of what she saw in the deadlights. They remember her floating. They say they're going to stop it. Richie is not a fan of it. He says he'll just wait till next time, but Bev warns them that if they do not kill Pennywise now, there will not be a next time. Because they will all die before it returns. Bill says it's the only way they can do it. And then for them to remember things, they just go marching along the old scenes of, like, near the train tracks and the barrens and all. It's very cute. I like this scene. I will admit when I like things in this movie, because there are a few things I enjoy. I really like this scene. We go to the clubhouse. Ben falls into it, and then we use that as a transition to go back to 89. Here's our first look at the awful CGI on Wolfhard and Olaf again. It's on all of them. It's just so obvious to me on those two that it's very Uncanny Valley, and I hate it. We get the magical power of the paddleball, where we get to watch Bev, Bill, and Richie watch Eddie do paddleball in Stan's face. That scene's one of my favorites. The ball breaking off is another fun transition. We go back to seeing Eddie pull the ball out from between the floorboards. Richie makes a "hey losers, time to float" joke from the dark, which is like actually a really good fake scare. I like it. I love him and his stupid little dance. I like this version of Richie. I don't think there's a version I dislike. I have ones I like more, but I do like Richie as a character. Bill Hader's performance is so close to Finn Wolfhard's. I think a lot of the actors did a really good job at recreating the way their younger actor worked, but I think that Hader and Wolfhard, and then Olaf and Bean, Ransom and Grazer, I think those ones had some really good recreations of their younger versions. You see Bill pick up a coffee can that has shower caps in it. When he opens it, it transitions back to Stan opening it in the 80s. He's handing them out. Richie says they're not scared of spiders because that's lame, but he sees all the losers have one on. We see Eddie kind of rip his shower cap off when Richie says that. Mike is on the swing. He mentions wanting to go to Florida. They tell Stan to go with him because Stanlin writes. And Stanlin wrongs. Stanlin, all the time, every day, please. Bev is hyping up Ben's construction while she's smoking. Stan asks if they're all still going to be friends as adults, which puts a really sad taste in their mouth, but Bill and Bev reassure them they'll always be friends. I love them so much. Watching it go back to the adult versions of them mourning their friend is so good. We start talking about the ritual, and Richie says if there's a sacrifice, they should do Eddie, because Eddie is little, he'll fit on a barbecue. I'd like to remind you all that James McAvoy is the shortest of that cast. That is not Eddie. I think it's really funny. I think technically it's Chastain, but you know what I mean. They said they went there to find Stan's artifact together. They're going to use the shower cap in reference to him. I have to assume this is their version of the two bullets being Mike and Stan. The losers now have to find their own. They climb out, start asking questions about their tokens, and now we are reminded of the fight after Nebel. They add a weird red flash to the punch that Richie took from Bill. And you don't realize how much they changed from the flashback scenes of this versus stuff that's from the first movie until you're looking at them, and then you're like, oh, they're so little. But we leave the fight with Bev and Bill. Bill sends her home. And this transitions to Bill riding past adult Bev as she heads in to her old apartment, which is now taken up by a woman named Miss Kirsch. was really sweet. It's really sad she's gotta be all weird because she's not real. The Bev goes back to her old bathroom. She has a memory of her dad saying her mom only killed herself because she was embarrassed to be Bev's mother. We watch him get really close to her. She recoils like she's expecting to be hit just for him to cover her in her mother's perfume. Sophia Lillis did so good in that scene. I love the cast. It's my age group. I think they're so good. She pulls off the molding at the bottom of the floor to find her key necklace, the postcard, and a pack of cigarettes. Smile over the postcard is so good. God, Beverly, you will always be famous. The old lady talks to Bev about what it's like being back in Derry, offers her tea. When she sort of fans herself, it shows she has these open sores on her chest. Krish is a little racist. She is. She disappears to go get cookies at the oven. We see a naked version of her run by, which if I remember right, I think that's not CGI. I think Miss Krish just did that. And then they sped it up, something like that. Her actress did such a great job. The pause and then start back up. She does. She's so good. I love her. I want her in more stuff. She's still alive? Yeah, it's only been 6 years. She's still alive. 6 years? Oh, okay. She talks about how she was her daddy's little girl. She asks Bev if Bev is still her daddy's little girl, and comes out all weird and warped by Pennywise before she turns into Miss Krish's father, who is often referred to by people as Robert Gray. It's a human version of Skarsgård's Pennywise. He starts ripping his skin open to be in clown form again. There's this moment where he drags his finger, and instead of just paint, it's open bleeding sores. It's really good. She gets to run out just to realize that her old apartment building is foreclosed and nothing was real then. Richie goes back to the movie theater where he remembers playing Street Fighter with Henry Bauer's cousin, who is actually really nice to him until Henry comes back, and then he gets very homophobic. Definitely because he's gay and into Richie and not safe to be. And I don't know, this scene's really sad to me. It's really sad to me. I don't like it. It makes me very upset. And it's supposed to, that's the point. But this is supposed to be my comfort movies. Why are you making me sad? We watch him get chased through the park by Paul Bunyan in a scene that's supposed to be scary, but the CGI and Coke bottle glasses combined just make Finn Wolfhard kind of look like a little cartoon bug, and I can't be scared when I'm looking at a cartoon bug. Anyway, the Bill version of Richie goes back to it. A zombie version of Adrian from the opening scene invites him to the closing night, gives him another one of those little funeral pamphlet things. What are they called? You get them at weddings and plays and graduations too. What are they called? I'm gonna have the word on screen every time I say what are they called. Pennywise pops back up saying he knows his little dirty secret, and then the color grading, okay, he's got his red balloon triangle again. It's not as good. And then the color grading turns into that awful teal and orange filter that every mean girl you went to school with, if you went to school from high school from 18 to 2022 like I did, you know this filter. Every popular girl at your school used this filter. It was awful. It made their fake tan look even more Oompa Loompa-ish. That you know the filter. We're gonna leave that to watch Bill nearly get hit by a car. He finds his old bike. We have Stephen King's cameo here with his self-insert, who is so annoying and just keeps cutting Bill off, and it makes me so mad. But perverts are annoying, so it's suiting for him. It fits. I don't know, him having his cameo here is very Stephenie Meyer at the diner when Bella goes in for the first time, you know? Like, it's just so, I have to have my cameo with myself insert. I hate it. Anyway, he does get Silver. There's a minute Silver's so rusty that he can't get it to move, and it almost looks like he's forgotten how to ride a bike. But then we get the hi-ho Silver away. We get a flashback of him and Bev on the bike as he rides back past his childhood home. He remembers Georgie. We get a memory of him begging to know why Pennywise took Georgie down at the storm drain. He's like, this is such a good Martell performance. I think Jaden Martell does like Devastation very well. I'm a very big fan of him. I want men who can cry, characters in general who can cry and throw tantrums and shit back in horror. And he's my favorite Scream King for a reason. Like, he's got the talent, he's got the aggression, and I love it. Anyway, he hears Georgie's voice talking back to him as he's like finishing the memory, who starts begging him for help, saying he's still down there. He reaches down for him, gets his boat back, also gets attacked by like zombie baby hands, but weird choice of Pennywise to give him his boat back, and it's because he thinks he can psych them out, but still, like, Mr. Wise, for someone with Wise in their name, you're kind of stupid. I messed it up, so we're just gonna make it thicker. That's how this works. I like it thicker. Sorry for anyone with issues with eye pulling. That probably really bothered you. The kid shows back up. Bill tells him to stay away from the drain. If he ever hears voices for it, to promise not to go near it. He says he doesn't hear voices from the drain. He hears them from the bathtub drain. He tells him to beg his parents to get him out of Derry and never come back. We go to Ben at the middle school. He's in his old social studies room that he shared with Bev. We see young Ben getting messed with, listening to New Kids on the Block. This is this movie's version of the Kiss Me Fat Boy scene. I don't like it as much. I think adult Ben accidentally just genuinely making out with Pennywise is so much funnier. Bev's head turns into fire. Otherwise, this, like, until then, the scene's kind of cute. I think Bev would make, like, not Bev, but Sophia Lillis should play a mean girl. I like her. I like her being a little mean little asshole. It's good. She chases him out of the classroom. He hides in his locker, rips the yearbook page out to remind him that that's not the real Bev. His Bev would never speak to him like that. Pennywise is in the locker with him, jumps out, says he has no friends. I think he's saved by like a janitor. Anyway, he heads back to the hotel and he yells out, "Guys," while walking in, like it's some sort of shared apartment they have and not a hotel. Bev is saying she remembered a poem and the boy who wrote it for her. He's excited because he remembers writing it. However, she's back under the assumption that Bill wrote it, but she says she's not sure. Ben goes to correct her, but then Richie comes down throwing a tantrum saying he's leaving because he saw that damn clown again. We're going to go to Eddie, who is at the old pharmacy, where we find out Greta Keenan amounted to nothing. His bully is working for her dad at his pharmacy. Good for him. I don't like this version of Eddie, but good for him. He goes to get his inhaler, ends up going down to a basement. After he gets an inhaler, there's this flashback to Greta Keen and him getting an inhaler at one point for him to, like, remember that's why he's there. Andy Muschietti is one of the shoppers in the background of this scene as a cameo. This transition from adult Eddie to young Eddie used to be one of my favorites as a high schooler, but now there's a lot better transitions in this movie. He remembers going down to the basement, hearing where the vaccine room is, hearing his mama calling out for him while she's all strapped to a table in a room that very much so resembles a saw trap. Like, Did Muschietti watch the entire Saw franchise before making this movie? I'm starting to think he did. But, the leper is chained to a pole at the top of the room and slowly coming to infect her. Eddie just leaves her to die. Icon shit, truly. Adult Eddie goes back into the basement just to see it normal, turn around, get jump scared by his leper. He stabs into its eyes, pus squirts out in like a very gross scene that I really like. Chokes the dude, which gets vomit sent into his mouth and face again. Pennywise, this is gross. You can't pull this stunt every time. That's not fair. He storms upstairs to go get cleaned up. Henry is waiting in his bathroom to give him a good old mirror jump scare. Stabs him in the cheek. He gets in the shower, closes the curtain. And then when Henry says he wants his knife back, he stabs Henry in the stomach with the same knife that was in his face a second ago. There's a very unfunny joke about his mullet, and then Ben and Bev run into Eddie in the hallway. He says Bowers is in his room. Bowers escapes, pulls a knife out his chest, blows a kiss to Ben. I don't know, I like this scene, but also, like, it's kind of boring. Bill is running to the carnival because, oh yeah, I forgot to mention, a weird skateboard falls down while Ben and Bev and all are downstairs, and, during that point, Richie also says he's leaving. We're gonna get back to that. None of that really matters that much. The scenes that follow it do, but I guess you kind of have to know about it to know why that's happening. Anyway, he's at the carnival, follows him into a fun house, clown themed. He can't save the kid though. He watches as Pennywise breaks through a mirror. He licks up it, which is really gross and predatory. He breaks the glass. In a scene the scene feels very long and drawn out, and I know it's supposed to feel like Eddie, like how Bill is feeling hopeless, but like, hurry up, kill the kid and move on. Pennywise, you used to have flair. He bites him, coating the mirrors in blood at an hour and 46 minutes in. Then we get to Richie driving around, debating if he should go back or not. He passes the temple and remembers Stan's bar mitzvah speech. I am a loser and I always will be montage and monologue really, really, really high in my list of scenes. I don't know. Anything you give me a Stan is very high up for me because that's my baby. We see Ben in that final scene from the first movie where we realize he's crying as he walks away from Bev and Bill. Richie carving R and E into the kissing bridge. All of them piling in a little photo booth. Stan walking out of the bar mitzvah transitions to adult Richie sitting in the room alone. He thanks Stanley for showing up, because even though Stan couldn't make it, he could be there enough to make Richie go home and take care of who he has left. And oh, my boys, Stozer, my boys, my sweet boys. We get to Mike, who's alone in the library, but not actually, because Bowers is there. You get a fake jump scare of a book falling down with a version of his parents' death that Pennywise is making him see. I don't know. These fake jump scares for Bowers got old after the first one. Why'd you do it again? We get to see the old fire scene. I really don't care for this whole collection of scenes, but I think Isaiah Mufasa killed it. He did great. Just bad scene for me. I'm not a fan. Richie kills Bowers to protect Mike, throws up again, really dealing with
the vomit. Sure.
I'm tired of the vomit. I'd like something new. The other losers are really spooked by dead Henry, which is fair. They call Bill to get him come to the library. Bill's freaking out. Storms out to Neibold again because Bill has no self-preservation skills or the ability to remember that they have to be together. I still want to live in the house on Neibold Street. Someone please fix it up. The set of it is it's so good. It's such a sexy house. I love it. Please just fix it so I can move in. Losers get there before he goes in. They go in with him armed with spikes. We get Let's Kill This on part 2. Bev picking up a stick. because it kills monsters if you believe it can. It's the same spikes that she threw through his head back as a kid. The house is, go figure, very much more decrepit than it was 27 years ago. The ooze is coming down the stairs again. We finally get a loser actually saying beep beep Richie in the Mushini version. Bev says it when he's making a joke about how Pennywise let the place go. It actually came from a loser for once. It should have happened before we heard Pennywise say it, though. And then we watch as Ben's H on his stomach starts ripping back open. I don't remember what it turns into saying. Home at last. It rips open to say home at last. There is a mirror that Bev shatters because they realize Pennywise is doing it. When she shatters it, the cuts disappear. But as that's happening, our 3 boys who went into Nebel alone in the first movie are currently locked in a different room with that fridge. The fridge pops open. Stan is in there. This is my favorite Nebolt version of the kids. They all got one except for Ben and Mike. Like, the OG4 and Bev all have one, and then Patrick and Georgie have their versions. These versions are very well liked by the fandom, if you don't know, but Stan's Spiderhead is my favorite. If I remember right, this was a big part of their nominations for a lot of makeup, and the one that got him a Fright Meter award. I remember Wyatt Olaf posting about the head makeup winning them an award. I think it was their Fright Meter. Anyway, Spider-Stan head blames Bill for his death. We get another beautiful performance from Wyatt Olaf. I don't know how much was just him sitting in a room, because it's just his face kind of keyed on to something that's being CGI'd, but I love Spider-Stan. I love Wyatt Olaf's performance. Again, Pennywise, master of manipulation. Wyatt Olaf, please come home to horror. Casting directors, please bring him back to horror. I need emotional characters again. Scream Monarchy is losing its ability to act because characters are so stoic and empty. I do believe that. But the fuck has Richie pinned to the ground. Bill needs a knife to make him stop, yells at Eddie for it, but Eddie's frozen with fear, so Ben ends up stabbing the fake head. Stan makes this awful chattering noise that for some reason the description wants me to believe is groaning. No, it's not. He sounds like a bug being stepped on, but verbally. Bev takes her jacket off to clean up Richie, who can't see. Eddie is getting yelled at by Bill, begs him not to be mad at him because he's just scared. Bill reminds him Pennywise wants them scared, so he can't give him that. We go down to the basement and the sewer. We get to see more of Bev and Richie being gentle with each other. I think their friendship was really heavily lacking in chapter 1. I'm really glad we got to see it in chapter 2. They're my favorite of the platonic duos. We're back to the trash tower, but I don't see any floating kids this time. However, the losers are either belly button or nipple deep in gray water, depending on which loser you're looking at, and climb up on this platform. Bev faintly hears her father calling out for Bevy, and then her naked lady pops up, yanks her underwater. All the other guys jump in the water, try and save her. Eddie is not a fan of that. He's very annoying in this version. Dennis Christopher, Eddie, I miss you. Him crying that he doesn't want to walk out of there alone is kind of sad, though, and very good foreshadowing. The guys pop back up with Bev. They get her on the platform, open a hatch, and go down a tunnel, which Mike just jumps in like a madman. He's just going. No fear, just in there. Okay. Huh? Eddie has to get a pep talk from Richie. Bev gives him the stick she picks up and tells him it'll kill monsters if he believes it does, which is a reference to how often in the miniseries what you believe in is what matters, I'm pretty sure. It reminds me of I believe in the Easter Bunny, I believe in the Tooth Fairy, but I don't believe in you, or this inhaler's filled with battery acid, you slime. Like, I love it. Losers are crawling on concrete to get to the side. And the way they word it sounds like hibernation. I don't know. Mike says he hides there. Gravity isn't working right here. We see liquids dripping upwards, which is how you know he's nearby. Mike pulls out that thing he stole from the indigenous group so that they can do their ritual, find his true form, which is the deadlights. Richie says he hopes it's a puppy. That'll come up later. Anyway, he fills it with lighter fluid. They throw their artifacts in. Mike says somehow a rock covered in Henry Bowers' blood. Like, first of all, how is the rock still bloody? Have you kept the rock for 27 years? Where did the rock come from? The rock's not gonna burn. Michael, use your brain. Ben pulls out his wallet. He says he should have forgot, but he kept the yearbook photo. And all I can think about during this scene is that edit of the Losers Club where their eyes are blacked out and it has like what's wrong with them, and it's like this guy kept a piece of a yearbook in his wallet for 27 years like a photo. I'm gonna put it on screen if I can find it. You know what I'm talking about though. It's just like insulting them. It's so funny. The losers are holding hands in a circle again, this time in a really cool set, but I don't know, this movie's so long. At this point we're 2 full hours in and you still have time left. Like, it's so long. Deadlights start coming down. Looks sick. They're chanting. Light turn into darkness or something like that as the deadlights are coming down. But there's points where you're focusing in on different losers saying it. I hate it. I hate it. I don't like any chanting scene like that. They always make me kind of, like, they're bad. They're not good. When they're all doing it, it works, but the second you focus in on one actor, like, I'm trying to think of another, like Glinda, during the Chucky exorcism, how it just kind of sounds like Lachlan's voice is very shaky and messed up there. I don't know. I love Lachlan Watson. That's not a boo. I love the Chucky exorcism. I absolutely would love to go to the chapel and exorcise Chucky at any given time. But you see what I'm saying? Like, scenes like that just, they kind of make you go, ooh, I don't, Anyway, ritual doesn't work, which they find out when they're thrown out of the nest thing, just for Pennywise to be in the nest thing. Reveals Mike lied to them, trying to defeat him before it died. He only does this because you have to believe you can kill him to kill him. And if he convinces the losers what they're doing won't work, they'll believe it. He's spider-wise, but he's more clown and less spider this time. Kind of sad. Love the spider. Mike stands there apologizing. He's willing to get stabbed by Pennywise for what he did, but Bill knocks him out the way. Very blue chase scene ensues. The color grading on this movie is very interesting to me. Again, that like greeny Saw color shows up a lot down here. Did Muschini watch the Saw franchise for the first time before making this movie? Be honest with me. Is there anywhere I can find that out? I don't know. They get separated to like face their childhood fears, but it's actually only the love triangle that's gonna have to do that. Everyone else is just like running around still. I don't know. We start with Bill getting pulled underwater, popping up under the water of his childhood basement to relive the scene where he met Pennywise for the first time. We flash away from that to see Reddy in front of the very scary doors from chapter 1. Watch Ben and Burley get thrown away from each other back into the clubhouse and a bathroom stall, the same one from middle school. Flash back to Richie and Eddie because we're going to be flashing between people a lot. They remember the trick, so they open the very scary door, but Betty Ripson's legs that we never saw in movie 1 are there, sort of like weirdly tap dancing at them. I don't know. I don't like it. I don't. The way the CGI bodies move, or like whatever they did to get rid of the body parts to affect the way it moves, I don't like it. It's very like the way silent movies move, Ooh, I don't like it. Anyway, so they open the not scary at all door, and a Pomeranian is there, which is the type dog that Richie had asked for earlier. They think it's kind of cute. It does some tricks until it turns into a monster and they run away. Back to Bill, where Georgie's blaming him for his death. He points out that he was just playing sick. And instead of Wise holding its hand, it's adult Bill, who drowns the weird Nebel decayed version of Georgie. Back to Bev and Ben. People who harassed Bev as a kid are popping up and like slamming against the locked door. You can see Pennywise's eyes in their sockets. Pennywise, as this is happening, blood starts to fill the stall. Pennywise closes the door of the clubhouse as the walls start to cave in to leave Ben to suffocate as he's buried alive. Apparently they can hear each other through all this as Ben starts to scream for Bev not to listen to the voices talking to her. He says he loves her. He starts reciting the poem. She manages to kick the door down, which had her father behind it, and get to Ben. They save each other. That's really sweet. Back in the cave, she starts reciting the poem back to him, and he finishes the poem, which he never got to finish in the first part. They get up to find the others. Back to Bill, finally. We have Jaden Martell's Bill holding the sheep gun to McAvoy's Bill's head. Says they deserve to die for what they did to Georgie, but Big Bill is trying to comfort him. Pulls the trigger, nothing happens, so older Bill takes the gun, pulls the trigger on younger Bill, who turns into his weird Nebel version. Least interesting. I think the doll of Richie is more interesting than Bill with a bullet hole and weird teeth, but who am I to say? Jumping away from him leads him back under the water and back to the real world. I think this scene feels very rushed and like, we didn't need it. I'm sorry. Why was this added? We didn't need it. It almost feels like Martell filmed it without McAvoy. Like, it feels like they don't have a connection at all. I don't understand. Something about this scene just really doesn't do it for me. But Mike goes to get Bill, interrupted by Pennywise insulting him. Richie throws a rock at him to get him off of Mike, and put everyone's favorite "you're a sloppy bitch" line from Hater before Richie's put in the deadlights. The editing of the scene's so visibly pleasing, like the brain, and it's so good. I'm a really big fan of it. Eddie hypes himself up to kill Pennywise, says he can if he believes. He throws that stick and it impales Pennywise on his nest without he like stumbles back. Eddie goes to check on Richie, says he thinks he killed him, just to get impaled and lifted into the air by Pennywise, who throws him to the side. The losers all run to him. Richie's trying to put pressure on their wound, says he's got to get Eddie out, but Bev points out they can't. Eddie tells them about when he was choking the leper and how he made it feel small and weak, and he could feel him choking. He could feel him losing his ability to breathe. Mike brings up that all living things must abide by the shape they inhabit. One of the losers finds them a passageway to get back to Pennywise. They decide they're going to bring him to the tunnel so they can force him to be small and make him easier to kill. Losers start running. Richie and Eddie have their little final moment of the I fuck mom final word. Again, the Reddies love it. I don't really care. Rest of the losers are busy in another chase scene. They get to the tunnel, but he cuts them off. Mike reminds him there's other ways to make someone feel small, and we find out that had the Bowers gang been after Pennywise instead of the Losers Club, we wouldn't have needed Chapter 2. Because in this version, you can kill him by making him tiny by being mean to him. Sorry, the other losers were beating the shit out of this guy. Like, crushing spider eggs and mess. But sure, we can kill him by being mean. They're mocking him. He literally can't reach them to stab them because of it, because it doesn't work. Richie joins in screaming from where he's holding pressure on Eddie's wound. Pennywise runs to his nest, gets tiny, starts deteriorating, and Richie finally leaves that corpse to join him. I'm not going to add Eddie to the count until the losers accept he's dead, but like, Eddie died after the mom. He's dead. Richie rips off one of Pennywise's arms, starts deflating in the funniest way. Like, he's so silly looking. The jump up where he tries to scare Mike is so funny. Mike reaches into his chest, rips his heart out. He's like reaching for it, not unlike the way a baby reaches for a bottle. The losers all wrap their hand around his heart and they squeeze it until Pennywise falls dead at 2 hours 32 minutes in. We still have exactly 20 minutes to go. There's so much of this movie. We get our hand burrow, little forehead touch embrace. That's nice. They're gay. I love them. Bev clings to Richie. They all run back to Eddie, who has finally bled to death. I think he died earlier, but we're going to add him here at 2 hours 33 minutes in. Tunnels begin collapsing upwards because, again, gravity doesn't work right here. He's reclaiming the deadlights are taking him back to space. I don't know. Something weird's occurring here. The losers have to convince you to leave Eddie. A very good performance from Jessica Chastain and Bill Hader here. Big fan of it. Very emotional. Again, I love emotional horror. Richie clings to Eddie's body. They have to drag him off of it. So good. So good. Our heroes make it out of the Neibolt house. Just in now daylight. They've been in there for hours. Richie has to be held back as he screams for Eddie, trying to run back to save him, and the house becomes one big sinkhole. We go back to the quarry, which now has this no diving sign up, but the losers have never once listened, so they dive back in. They use it to wash the grime off of their face and their bodies. Much like as kids, Bev is the one to jump into the water first. The guys follow. Richie's cleaning Eddie's blood from his glasses, and Ben points out how much Eddie would have hated what they're doing. The rest of the group's trying to joke, but it makes Richie start crying. They get in one big cuddle pile, and Richie jokes that if he knew who they were, it'd be great, but he lost his glasses, so he can't see them. Is Richie nearsighted or farsighted? Can bro just not see at all? Why is he can't see things far away? He can't see things near him? What is his prescription? Many questions. Anyway, the boys and Bev all go looking for his glasses. We get that highly disliked underwater Benverly kiss. It's mainly just disliked by Ready fans, I'm pretty sure, but I get it. I do think it was out of place here, especially since we know they end up together from a later scene. I don't know, I just don't think it was needed in that scene. Losers go down Main Street, realizes their matching scars are gone. Mike says nothing lasts forever. We get the adults all stopping in front of a window, and as they look into it, their reflection is all 7 of their child selves holding their bikes the day they got out of the sewer for the first time. We go back to them. They're all bickering like they always do. It fades up into the sky, and we see the first paragraph, or the final paragraph of the first chapter of Bill's newest book. Mike's calling him just to check in. They aren't forgetting each other this time, which means they did finally succeed in killing Pennywise. We find out all the losers got a suicide note from Stan, which they realize is from him because it's got a return address of Patricia Uris. This is my favorite part of this movie. I know I said the Stan's bar mitzvah is really high up there, but Andy Bean's voice and it changing from adults to Andy again for a second as all the other adult losers get to throw something in there, and then to their kid versions talking, and how close Wyatt Oleff and Andy Bean's voices really are. God, I would do anything to see them play the same character at different ages, or father and son. I think they're such good casting. Their changes are so subtle compared to everyone else. I love them. I really do. I think they're great. But there's this beautiful montage over it where we're getting to watch the losers as kids, and you kind of get this implication that Stan knew more about Richie and his feelings for Eddie than he ever let on. It's very sweet. I just hate that this is confirmation that they took Stan's suicide from something I've always believed was an act of love. I truly do believe in the book we learn about his death and how good he is to Patricia through her point of view, so that we can recognize Stan killed himself not because he was scared of dying to Pennywise, but because he couldn't imagine a world where his wife never knew what happened to him, but he also couldn't imagine a world where his friends died because he couldn't leave his wife. I think Stan's suicide is an ultimate act of love. I think it's sacrificial, and I really hate that the movie confirms that this version of Stan died out of fear. I also hate that with Eddie dying, even though Mike's there, it confirms that Stan's suicide doesn't work. I have a lot of qualms with this movie, and a lot of it comes back to being a big fan of Stan, I won't lie. We get Benverly Endgame. We find out that Mike is still using that photo booth strip as a bookmark. Mike Hanlon, my beloved. And then we get a final clip of the losers on their bikes as children as the movie closes out. I have such convoluted feelings about this movie because, like, I hate it, but I love it. I don't know. But either way, I'm going to put your final kills on screen here. I am going to point out that I counted Pennywise as a non-binary kill, or like a gender queer kill, purely because in other versions of it, he is pregnant. He will change to a woman, to a man. Pennywise kind of exists outside the binary to me, so that's where he's going. But the rest of them, I've kept to their gender markers. Here's your final count of kills, if I've counted correctly. I thank you for being with me. I hope you enjoyed my very bad clown makeup. And I'll see you next time, baby. Bye.
My feeling was a horror movie. My feeling was a